Today is May 22nd, 2023. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And today we're going to discuss about mental health, and right now is at an all-time high in this nation. My guest is a licensed counselor, and we will discuss the underlying issues and symptoms which causes so much trauma and heartache in this nation. Not only in this nation, but in the Mountain State. This is Our Voices. Let's go. Thank you for tuning in to Our Voices. I have a special guest with me. She is a doctor, and again, she's at the top of her game. We're going to talk about mental health. My guest with me, Dr. Jerrica Wesley.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
I can't complain, doing well. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there for an old man, but
Yes, sir.
take it one day at a time.
Absolutely.
Doc, before I get to my questions, because again, mental health right now is a serious topic in this country. And I saw the interview which you did, I believe on Mother's Day weekend. I want to give a shout out to Rachel Hill, the host of Get Mugged. So I saw clips of that. Shout out to her and Get Mugged. Again, great interview.
Thank you.
Doc, before I get to my questions, please tell the viewers something about Dr. Jerrica Wesley.
Well, sure. Well, I am Jerrica. I have been a counselor for just over 10 years. I started off as an elementary school counselor and then began to transition to clinical mental health and doing work in the community, serving adults and children and families. I thoroughly enjoy what I do and just creating opportunities like this to raise awareness around mental health because it's something that we all have. And it's important for us to get access to the support that we need. So I'm privileged to be here. I am a professor of counseling at Marshall University, and I also have a counseling practice in the Charleston area.
All right. Now, I noticed something in the background. I see a little something, this little pink and green. Who do you represent? I mean, what's up with that?
I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Omicron Omega Chapter in Institute, West Virginia.
All right. Shout out to AKAs.
Yeah.
Now, you say that mental health is all in our lives.
Yes.
Define mental health.
Mental health is comprised of so many different things. Primarily, when we think of mental health, we think of stress, we think of depression, we think of anxiety, and yet mental health is how we react to those stressors. So mental health is essentially how we perceive our environment, how we cope, how we move through life.
Now, as you say, mental health, is that considered a bad thing? Or, I mean, because I guess it sounds like based off of emotions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with your emotions, they could vary, from happiness, sadness, frustrated, all the things in between. And the reality is that we experience that, all of us experience that day in, day out, weekly, just depending on various situations that take place. So in understanding our emotional health, it allows us to be able to interact in the various domains of our life in a different way. It's important that we recognize and prioritize our mental health because there are some physical health implications if we do not. in regards to, experiences with high blood pressure, and the like. There's a whole term called allostasis, which is the physical response to stress. And so it's important that we are very aware of how we're approaching stress and how we're seeking to cope with it, because there's a variety of coping skills, whether they be healthy or not so healthy. So it's important that we begin to prioritize our mental health and keep it at the forefront of our mind, because there are those physical implications for our emotional and mental health too.
Looking at a national standpoint, when we see in the news things like, mass shootings and the media say, according to the shooter, it's mental health breakdown, mental health issues, mental health problems. What do you say about, is there a root cause in mass shootings?
I think that's a great question. The root cause in mass shootings, goodness, I think that could be comprised of a lot of different things. And I don't necessarily think it's attributed to mental health. It could be, there could be motivations from a lot of different factors or influences. It just, that's a really good question, and it's going to make me spin a little bit, but there's so many ways to look at that. And I feel that if we kind of, there needs to be checks and balances in the processes for guns and all of those things. And I think it would be helpful if a person was looked at in a holistic manner. But each motivation for those unfortunate events is, from what I understand, is not necessarily linked to any particular diagnoses. That's something, honestly, that I'll have to find out a little bit more information on.
Doc, okay, let's go about it a different way. So, in the state of Texas, their government slashed $210 or $211 million in that was supposed to go towards mental health. And we see, as far as all the things that's going on right now.
Yeah.
From a national standpoint, is that a recipe for disaster when government alone slash or cut funding for mental health, especially at a time like now?
Absolutely. That's absolutely red flag, throwing all the sirens and everything, because we tend to pour money into things that are important. And unfortunately, their mental health does not appear to have the same priority as physical health or other important aspects of our lives. And so when things aren't prioritized in that way, people don't seem to elevate those issues. So cutting, resources in the mental health arena greatly jeopardize folks getting the access to the support that they need, whether it's the clinical services, i.e. therapy, group therapy, and also other supports with connecting with the psychiatrist, psychologist, and things for medication management. So we have to be able to look at mental health in a more, I think, integrated approach. There's so many different people and disciplines that must be involved to address this issue holistically, and without funding, there's no opportunity for people to get the adequate level of care that's necessary to operate in wellness.
From a socioeconomic status, can mental health affect the rich, and how? If so, how?
Yeah, mental health affects everyone, despite socioeconomic status. race, ethnicity, age, gender, all of those things. Depending on your particular demographic or how you identify, our culture states that you may not have mental health, even though we know that everyone does. So just because someone is of a certain social status, it does not take away that they can have struggles with mental health. We've seen countless unfortunate experiences in the public eye of individuals who've had mental health and had some pretty detrimental outcomes, i.e., death by suicide. So there's this idea that mental health has a particular look. And if that is the case, then many people, they don't think that, it's a priority, or mental health access is only available for a certain group or a certain population of people. And mental health access and, therapy is for everyone, and everyone needs it, per my thoughts.
Another question I have, and I'm going to narrow down to statewide, or as far as mental health. Go look at a state standpoint. How bad is it here in West Virginia as far as mental health? Is there some sort of ranking when it comes to mental health issues, like on a state by state basis? What does West Virginia rank?
At the last time I looked, West Virginia, we were within the top 5 with pretty startling statistics in terms of obesity, diabetes, all of those things, and encompassed in that was depression. And that was within, we were kind of ranked within the top 5 within the states who have a more widespread experiences with those issues, and mental health and depression was one of those elevated issues. So we have some factors within West Virginia that really, if we're not careful, really can chisel away at our mental health. There's a lot of socioeconomic differences in our state. As West Virginians, we are hardworking people. We, pick up our bootstraps and we work and we do all the things that's necessary to move forward. And that unfortunately comes at an emotional and physical cost. So we have these quiet experiences with depression, which may result in these other physical implications. So West Virginia, we have, we're overrepresented, I'll say, in some areas that are not helpful.
As you say, West Virginia is in top 5. And when I speak about West Virginia and its socioeconomic status, one place I really pay close attention to, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, and I'm not saying it because I'm from there, because again, I'm not from West Virginia, but McDowell County, as some would call it, the armpit of West Virginia. And I'm going to get on my little soapbox for a brief minute.
Okay.
Politicians who run for office say, they're going to do this, they're going to do that for McDowell County, West Virginia, yet they do nothing. And there's been about maybe 7 or 8 years maybe 9 years since I've been there. And I tell you what, it is really, I hate to say it's really bad looking. It's terrible, because when I was there, I remember it was like a half of a Walmart, a Rite Aid, and a Dollar General, and a Wendy's. As far as business wise, that's it. Everything else is, you see a few houses, some dilapidated buildings and stuff like that. So But when you look at the socioeconomic status, like you say, I think about McDowell County.
Mm.
What can, in your opinion, what can be done to kind of boost that area and get them out of that, get them out of the cellar from a mental health standpoint? What can they do?
It would be important, I think. I begin to think of how we can begin to transform how services are offered and delivered. And so we know that in West Virginia, we have a very different kind of geographical makeup. We're very spread out. Internet access can be dicey. COVID has allowed us to, insert ourselves in people's home, i.e. through Zoom. And at the same time, it would be important to, I think, have clinicians to actually incorporate themselves in McDowell County. I'll be curious to, see if there's any opportunities or initiatives to go to people's homes in that way, because people tend to they tend to heal in proximity, so like where they live, so it might not be accessible to go down the road, or to access care and counseling and things like that. So it'd be interesting to see how we could begin to go into that specific area, to see how we could take an assessment of those direct needs, and how we could plug in as therapists, as different mental health professionals, to see what's needed and to see how to best support them.
Doc, I have a question here for you.
Uh-huh.
Have you noticed a difference in people's social, emotional health from before the pandemic up to now?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say so. It appears that the pandemic has really exposed um, so many holes, so to speak, in just how we navigate life. And in some ways, it's helped us to prioritize things. And at the same time, it's really pushed us and stretched us beyond some of our capacities. There was this idea that, working from home can be easier, that working from home, will allow you to have some more, I don't know, mental strength or all of those things, because we have flexibility. And now we're seeing that people are burning out in not just one particular discipline, but in all disciplines. So COVID has really magnified the importance to operate in boundaries and revisit and rediscover what boundaries look for us, and in this new world of 2023, kind of post-COVID-ish. So COVID has really shown us and exposed to us that there's an opportunity to make changes, for sure.
Before I switch to another area,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that when it comes to mental health, it costs money.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way mental health can be cured from a grassroots level?
That's a great question. So what I would like to share is, when I'm connecting with my clients, I always like to hear about what kind of kindred support is important to them, or that they have access to, their family, their friends, their faith. I think that all of those components can assist in having a greater quality of life, right? So there's many options out there, because we do know that mental health and access, they have costs associated with them. However, there are many platforms, OpenPath being one, that really works to reduce some of that financial barrier so that individuals can access the support that's necessary to start moving forward in that healing journey.
Doc, a good friend of mine who works with the legislature, he said that the Division of Behavioral Health got over $70 million, and community and mental health received $17 million.
Okay.
So I don't know if you follow politics and the numbers here. Have we as a state, have we directed our monies in the right direction? Because sometimes, when it comes to politics, it's that, those two words, wasteful spending. So from your perspective, your expertise, are you getting your bang from your buck? I mean, are you getting your money's worth? Because again, coming from the state, are they spending money in the right direction, in the right way?
Another good question. I feel like in our state, there's so many different initiatives, and at the same time, we don't know about them. So I feel like there's probably lots of different opportunities and programming for individuals to, take part in. However, we don't know about them. So I would love to really see, a needs assessment or something like that would take place, that we could strategically look at the needs of our communities, and we could apply very specific strategies to take care of that. And so in my ideal world, we would be able to do that needs assessment directly correlated with mental health and see how we can best meet the needs of our community, because honestly, I don't know how that money is allocated.
All right. I'm going to touch on this subject here.
Okay.
This may get a little bit touchy.
Uh-oh.
The drug situation. One individual spoke highly of you because you spoke to folks in drug court. Can't do any name dropping, but what's it like to interact with folks in drug court? What was the result? And again, explain about that, because again, that is very helpful when it comes to, because now we're talking about chemical dependency. How do you, what's your success rate when you interact with folks in drug court? Because again, one judge spoke highly of you, and they said, Dr. Jerrica rocks. And I think you know who that person is.
I think I do know that person, and I like to say she rocks too. But in my experience, I worked there when I was going through my doctoral program, the juvenile drug court, and I had the opportunity, while the participants, the youth, were kind of going through their process, I had an opportunity to connect with the parents. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful experience, because what's common is, in some of these experiences, we pour in all our efforts and energy into the person who is referred, right? And I think with substance use disorder, we have to realize that it's not just that person who is impacted in this way. So it's important to take a holistic view and bring in parents and bring in family members so that we can have more of a supportive environment and more, I'm losing my words, but we can be able to have some more reinforceable moments, right, with the students who are involved in that process. So they're receiving the support from all angles. So substance use is something that West Virginia has a very interesting history with. And it's important to note that based on just the differences that we have in our region, it can come as a way of a coping skill. There are influences in terms of domestic violence where individuals don't have a choice, right? In terms of how they're navigating that. So it's important to recognize that no matter what's going on, if someone is having this particular issue or struggle, we need to treat them in a manner that is holistic in nature. So whatever that may be. So I don't know. I think I went on a tangent there. I'm sorry.
No. Go right ahead, please. Go. Just talk. Go ahead. Because this is, again, I know this is something that is so. Again, mental health is very broad. Is very serious, and again, and yeah, especially coming from a statewide standpoint. I know, like you said, top 5. As some folks, the old folks would say, you got to put a lid on it.
Yeah. And so when I don't recall the book or the author at this moment, but in regards to substance use, the author was speaking and how the use of substances, particularly mothers, it is this experience of extending joy with the various demands that we have as mothers, as partners, as colleagues. Life gets heavy. And at times we have to consider the coping skills that we are aware of that have been in some ways that we have that have been a part of our environment. So it's important that when working with individuals who may have substance use disorder, that we're working to build on a different foundation of coping skills, one that allows them to process their feelings and experiences and experiences with trauma so that they can begin to move forward in their journey.
Dr. Jerrica Wesley is my guest. Of all your years of counseling and just observing and your synopsis and everything, here's my question to you. Again, of course, you've seen cases on the grade school level, from elementary school to middle school to private school.
Yeah.
What is, and the levels, those 3 levels right there, what in your experience, what is the most difficult level to diagnose and to try to correct the issue? Which level?
That's a great question. I would say in terms of diagnosing, with my experience, I would say with the little littles. It's hard sometimes to kind of tease out how that would work with a particular little person. So ages, preschool and up. So it would be important. It goes back to working with an individual holistically. So not just taking the account of an observation, but, getting information from family members, from friends, from teachers, just to see how to best support that student to make sure that if a diagnosis, if it's even warranted, is one that's accurate. So I would say the littles.
Doc, give me an example that you have experienced of a client that touched your, that broke your heart. Can you tell me a story like that? Are you able to? But you can't do any name dropping.
No name dropping. I'd say that I've had many. Probably most recently, I draw my experiences from being a school counselor. And so fortunately and unfortunately, my first group of students are now like graduating high school, and that makes me feel old. I don't know how I feel about it, but what's very rewarding to me is I do remember very clearly Dr. Shaniqua Smith had an event at Capitol last year, and we were just kind of pouring into kids. And I had a group of students that came up from when I was at Piedmont, and they just, you know, thanked me for being there and for listening to them. And that really stood out to me because I was a very, very, very small part of their story. When I was with them at that point, they may have been in second or third grade. So I really think that in counseling, you never know what kind of impact you'll have. But planting seeds is a lot of what I believe that we do. And just sharing our belief in someone, letting them know that they are valued, letting them know that we see infinite potential in them. So it's moments like that come that make me want to keep on teaching and keep on counseling.
When it comes to mental health, I have a few more questions. I'm going to let you go.
Sure.
When it comes to mental health, when you first interview a person, do you have your method is kind of like, like Alcoholics Anonymous, that 12-step program? Do you have a step program to say, okay, this is where we start, and it's going to take X number of steps for you to be cured and healed and you're all better? Do you have a step program?
Excellent question. I really let the client drive that process. When I initially meet with a client, I always ask the question, because I'm in the business of working myself out of a job. That's what I do. So eventually, I want clients to feel empowered and not, begin to step away from therapy. And so that process looks different in terms of when I ask the client, so how will you know when our work here is done? Because that really allows us to fine tune the goals that are necessary to drive our sessions. So if it's, I'll feel more confident, or I'll feel more assertive, or I'll have a different relationship with people in my interpersonal relationships, that really helps us to fine tune where we go in therapy. And we typically meet on a frequency of every other week or once a month, whatever frequency seems right for them. So there's no standard plan.
When did this passion come into you for mental health? When did this first start?
That's a good question. I feel like it's always been there. I originally went to Marshall just knowing I was going to be a nurse. And then I got in all those nursing classes and I was like, there's blood, nope, that's not how I want to help the people. So I remember, people would just always want to talk to me. And I felt like I didn't know why, or people would feel comfortable. So it's always been a passion and an interest of mine. But I feel like I didn't really come into my area of, I guess, specialization or have an understanding of it probably until maybe 9 years ago. So my real passion area in counseling is around reproductive loss and trauma. So supporting individuals who are having difficulty building their family with infertility, pregnancy loss, stillbirth, abortion. So it's actually after I had some personal experiences with that, then that really propelled me to want to do research around that particular issue and work to create stronger support systems for women and people like me who were navigating that particular experience.
When you interview clients, do you insert any of your past experiences as a way of trying to get them to understand or get them to to open up more to you? For example, well, I remember when I was this age right here and I kind of experienced this right here. Do you ever use yourself as like an instrument or an example to
Mm.
to better explain or give a better explanation to the client to really
Mhm.
open up to you? Do you ever do that?
I do.
Personal past.
Yeah, I do. At times when I feel like it would be beneficial for the client, because I would never want it to turn into, oh my goodness, Jerrica's just telling me all her stuff. But I will disclose, especially, people may have a curiosity if, because that's my area of interest with infertility and reproductive loss and trauma. So, clients will ask me, and I'll share. Very limited, but I will. And, things may come up in other areas. And I think it's helpful to normalize some of those experiences and share just that everyone has experiences with mental health. We do have experiences with stress and other things. And so as a way to keep that door of communication open and to show that I'm not any different than anyone else, I will make that disclosure if it's helpful for the client.
All right, all right. Before I let you go, Dr. Wesley, well, first, I want to give a shout out to Miss Teresa Robinson, who connected us
Oh yeah,
making this happen, your
yeah,
soror. So shout
that's
out to
right.
Teresa Robinson. Um, you host a session every week or every other week at the Roosevelt Center.
We just wrapped up some offerings. We were working with the seniors, and we would go in there monthly and talk about a variety of topics just to kind of plug in and support them and have conversation around mental health. It was such an awesome opportunity, and there are a few, excuse me, groups that will be offered in the evening. I have to double check on that time, but that's still something that Teresa and myself that we're still involved in to provide some support.
I'm done.
You're done.
I'm done.
We solved all the world's problem in 38 minutes.
Well, I can keep going, but for another 7 more minutes or another 22 more minutes to make an hour. No, I'm not going to hold you up. Dr. Wesley, it is customary with me that I normally give my clients, my guests, 1 to 2 minutes to give the final word. Is there anything that you want to share that we did not discuss? I'll give you 5 minutes.
Oh, just to say whatever's on my heart.
To say what's on your heart, and also because I'm giving you a little special privilege because you're a member of AKA, and there's another person who's a member of AKA, so
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh.
uh-huh.
Well, I certainly appreciate the opportunity. Anytime that I can have a conversation around mental health, it is one that I'm so passionate about because it's not ever discussed or it's not discussed in a way that's often facilitated for individuals to get the support that they need. Within the Black community, mental health sometimes seem like a untouchable topic. And there's this whole experience with particularly women, this whole kind of dynamic of the strong Black woman schema or syndrome, and that, we must just keep pressing forward and we must keep moving on and doing these things. And while that adopting components of that schema, certainly can facilitate resilience. On the other side of that, if we don't prioritize our needs and our mental and our physical health, then we could end up in a really detrimental kind of state. So if individuals are having any experiences with really low lows, reaching out and to connect with someone doesn't have to be a foreign thing. When I connect with my clients, the conversation is just like this. It doesn't have to be anything that is very strict or feels very formal. There's certainly a process that we go through to get you the support that you need. But the whole goal is to make life a little bit more tolerable, day by day. And so sometimes we have to connect with people and different resources to get the support that we need. We are our first resource, and so we have to be able to advocate for ourselves and advocate for our needs, and know that it's okay to say no. It's okay to take a break. It doesn't say anything about your personal character. It means that you are honoring your boundaries so that you can live life in a way that's, meaningful to you. And so you'll have the bandwidth to continue. So that's my pedal school moment.
I got one last question. It just popped in my head just now. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute. I got 3 more minutes. Okay, I got 3 more minutes. You mentioned about the Black community.
Yeah.
In your expertise and your experience, please rank in order by race and gender. Who suffers more, Black women, white men, Black men, from the least to the most?
From the least to the most in terms of experiences with mental health?
And their need to be helped and healed.
The least to the most. I would say that everyone does have that issue or need. However, the access to it is different among each, I guess, race or ethnicity. It doesn't appear to be as accessible there. I could go on a whole tangent in terms of I'm sorry, I didn't rank, but I begin to think about the complicated history, medical history with African Americans, and the complicated history that we've had with the medical system, so to speak. The Tuskegee study. There was a whole experience, and we're thinking about reproductive issues. There's a expression called the Mississippi appendectomy, where women were made sterile without their knowledge or consent. So
then there was I forgot his name, the father of gynecology and what he did. Yeah.
Yes, this Sims. I'm drawing a blank on his first name, but yes, there were many times where he sought to perfect his techniques, but it was on African American women who were slaves. So there's this complicated, unfortunate history that African Americans have had, with this medical system, and mental health appears to be this whole medical piece too. And so there's this layer of distrust. And so with that, many aren't as likely to access the services they need. There are not many clinicians of color. We do know that there is such a thing called, I just lost the term. This is what happens when I haven't had on my coffee, Ray. I'm sorry. Racial concordance. Okay. There's this whole thing that when you have a provider who has similar characteristics of you, the care is different. The care is more ideal. You're able to better advocate for your needs. So there's so many different, I guess, layers that go into individuals seeking support. And I would say that every particular demographic, every culture has a particular view of mental health. And so I would say that the African American community and those who are from different backgrounds aren't as likely to access the care that they need, because there's this stigma, and also that there's this history that has led folks to believe that it's uncertain and that their needs won't be fully addressed, or they won't be heard. In the psychology community, in the mental health community, as recent as I think 2-3 years ago, there was a formal apology. And I don't want to misspeak. I want to say it was from someone in the psychology discipline, in terms of just how experiences with marginalized communities were handled well within mental health. So there's a lot of different layers that go into that, but my whole hope is that conversations like this will plant some seeds in folks, and that if they need help, they can reach out. They can certainly reach out to me, and I can help facilitate any connection that's helpful. See, you made me go on a rant, and I exceeded the time.
Hey, I told you 45 minutes an hour.
Oh my goodness.
That's all right. Look, you okay? But if we go over an hour, then then the rates go up.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, like I said, again, this issue right here, again, it came to me, and I saw something on social media, and I'm glad Teresa was able to connect you to me so we could do this interview. And I hope that this interview reaches and touch someone to get.
Yeah.
So again, Dr. Wesley, thank you very much for coming on Our Voices. Again, I enjoyed this interview, and if you want to come back on and talk about something that's new and something that you want to get off your chest and want to talk about, let me know.
Appreciate it. Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. You take care. Be safe. Okay. Don't go anywhere. Hold on.
Got it.